Not used to doing that stuff I was doing today. Oh, my goodness. Rolling around on the floor, climbing up into the train trailers and,
Oh.
it's over like that.
Joe Kid say he was coming?
Joe will not be in town today. I didn't hear anything from Darren, but
Darren's still on,
what's that?
There's not here.
Darren's not on anymore, is he?
Darren. Nikki, sorry.
Yeah, but I'm gonna kick him off.
You're really
Close the door.
Gosh, we're a quiet group, huh?
Yeah, we don't have a lot to talk about. But when we do talk, it really matters. Stacy will listen to it.
That's right.
I don't know, she seems like kind of a nice gal.
She don't always believe everything she hears.
I'll listen though.
Jim's up here too.
Oh, that Nate character though.
Yeah, that's the one you gotta watch.
Hey. He's not for debate yet, right? Okay. Hello.
Yes, sir.
You see Kevin and me excited about that thing?
I haven't driven over there. Maybe look at it.
It's just of 800 square foot. Yeah, oh, big dark. I'm like, wow. She was so excited because
Frank, I do have one quick scheduling thing before we adjourn for the Board of Property Maintenance Appeals.
Appeals, somebody didn't like their planner. Oh, we'll wait for it.
Yeah.
Is that after the meeting?
No, it's just information really. We need to schedule something within the next week and a half, I think is what we have left to do it, so.
Okay.
But we'll come to that when we get there.
So I'll call the meeting to order. So you want to put that down as addition?
Yeah, so as item C under new business, just a scheduling discussion regarding the Property Maintenance Board of Appeals.
Okay. All right. I need a motion for to approve the agenda as presented. Second. Hey, all right. All in favor, say aye. I need a motion to approve the minutes from August 27th, 2020. You just received them, have you read them?
So moved.
Second.
All right, we got that taken care
We
of.
got a tape team going.
All right. Okay, there's no visitors be heard will be in the new business project. We call this meeting for a revision of parking setback in side yard and rear yard. And the reason, should I go into that?
Yeah, I think you can go with
The reason it is written in 12.4 or something like that, that you have to have 2-foot grass before, on the edge of your parking. And it was brought to our attention by Jason Wilson.
Wilson, yeah.
Wilson.
Okay, and he lives on, where's
209 South Cedar.
209 South Cedar. He parks next to his house off the alley. If he'd have a driveway, the street light would be right in the middle of the driveway. So he just pulls down the alley and off onto where he parks. And our ordinance reads that he has to have 2-foot grass between the alley and his parking space. And I'd like to change that he could put concrete right up to the alley to make it
Just one clarification, so the ordinance, get the language here, and Jason and I actually talked a little bit about this yesterday. The specific language of the ordinance is no parking, oh gosh. Okay, parking is permitted in a side yard or rear yard in an R1, R2, or R3 district, and this is an R1, provided it is not nearer than 2 feet to the property line. So, if we can confirm or reasonably judge that the parking in that area isn't going to encroach more than, it's gonna stay 2 feet away from the right of way, I think we're probably okay. The issue comes when there's not a lot of space there, so I don't know how much you actually have, so. Just so everybody can see the property, I'm gonna put that up on the screen.
It is an old part of Lennox.
Yep.
And
That's crowded.
we gotta kind of deal with that, I think.
How far is it between the house and the alley?
The houses,
Well, I'd say the southern portion of the south porch, I haven't measured it to say for sure. I'm gonna say it's probably, I got some measurement stuff here.
I think we were looking at, what did we measure yesterday?
I know we just poured that sidewalk. We went 5 foot wide, and I think to the property line, I think we figured it was a total of 13 feet something. But the southern porch there, if you go a little to the west,
That little ditty coming off the west end?
yeah,
Yeah.
I wanna say that's probably between 6 and 7 foot
Yeah.
to the alley there, give or take.
it is tight.
But for the majority of it, she parks in front of it. If we rotate where she parks and I park, we can make that work. But I just wanted to go to the property line with concrete primarily because right now there are the little 4x8 pavers there, and they only cover basically where she parks. And where I park, which would be to the west of her, it's gravel and rock, so every winter, I snow blow and I blow it to the west, and, it's not fair to my neighbor to get all my rock. Well, in the summertime, he mows and throws it back at me, so I'm kinda tired of the rock throwing contest. But he's a heck of a nice guy, but you know what I'm saying? And we're thinking, initially we wanted to pour the concrete just past that southern porch there, but I don't think I really need to. I kind of want to just go from the sidewalk that the city just poured, which would be on the east side of the house, to the end of the house. which I think is roughly about 56 foot. And I think at the widest portion, roughly about 8 foot, and I'll say probably about 5 foot the other way, where that porch is at.
Right now, you park further to the west, right?
Yeah, basically the back end of my pickup is just right, so just about center where that south porch is at.
Okay.
And we've parked there, we've owned that house since '95. And the people, the individuals that owned the house before us, they parked there as well. And I've never had an issue with, and then that is a busy alley, but I've never had an issue with anything, the traffic going through the alley or anything like that. So that's why, we were thinking, number one, it'll, increase the value of the property because it'll have a concrete pad. Number two, you're gonna have curb appeal, which right now, it's like I was talking to Nathan, to me, when you drive by it with the pavers and the gravel, it looks ghetto. That's the words I used. So, with the increased value of the property, of course, there's gonna be property taxes that are gonna be able to be, collected. Resale of the property will be higher. So, just all three of those factors, the money involved and the curb appeal, and just my sheer, I guess convenience of snow blowing and whatnot, is gonna be great. Plus, the other thing, with parking on the gravel, when you get moisture in the ground, my last vehicle, I had the box floor of the pickup get rusted through the floor because that moisture sits there, and I want to get away from that.
I wonder, I tend to think that if your wife's vehicle's parked further west, and you're parked on the east side of the property, that you'll be able to be further north
Yep.
and stay 2 feet away.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty close, but I think, yeah, because we were looking at it last night.
So I think we need to, what I would suggest is verifying where that lot line is first.
Yeah.
And it sounds like our stakes are already gone on the
The
project.
stakes are gone, but it was, right on the east side, the southeast corner where that power pole is at. It was right to the inside of that pole, right there.
So I might be able to talk to Dexter and say, hey, just get a stake as close as you think it is to that property line. Or we got a surveyor down here, and we might be able to do that too.
Was
And
it
just make
in
sure
line
we
with
have
the
enough.
power line, or was it to the north or south of that pole?
With the power line, it would have been on the very north
Edge
edge
of
of
it?
it.
Yeah.
And
So basically, within a foot of where you got the pavers right now.
actually, it's less than a foot.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
would say-
it looks pretty dang close.
Yeah. And I know like snow removal, when the guys come and push the snow through the alley, they're not even close,
Yeah, I was we're thinking about that if they would catch the edge of it, but
no.
yeah,
No,
it's not even close.
No, and if you look at the, further west down the alley, you'll see a lot of green encroaching into the right of way there.
Yeah,
Yeah, and you can see where we've worn it down.
Yeah,
There's no grass going from when I pull in and stuff. And I know I've talked to a lot of the neighbors, and I thought about doing it, but I didn't. I was gonna get, a piece of paper and have them all sign that they were in agreement with this, just so you guys know that I didn't have any, community issue with it. But they're all like, yeah, we'll sign it, no problem, because we want you to have that, so.
the only thing I would worry about is it doesn't look like you got a whole lot of grade there to be able to do it. The dirt right now is basically up to the siding, and,
Well,
because you want it to slope away from your house.
and we just had a 5-foot wide sidewalk poured on the south side of the house.
Yeah.
And he did, that sidewalk is up a little bit from where
and
it
he
was.
brought in the gravel.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I think, and I just got the quote from him too, from that masonry components out of Yankton.
Yeah.
It was like $29.75 for what we wanted to do in concrete. And that was, you know, with the grading and everything, so, and 6 inches of concrete.
So I guess, Mr. Chairman, what I would suggest is verifying those lot lines and making sure that if he already has room there, then I see nothing in the ordinance specifically, and I have to talk to the building inspector yet, but I see nothing in the ordinance that would specifically bar an improved surface to the property line.
Okay.
It bars parking within 2 feet, but it doesn't necessarily change where the concrete can go. So, we may be able to do this without any changes to those ordinances.
Well, let's try it. Are you in favor?
Yeah.
Sandy?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Let's try that.
Yeah.
Do I have to make a motion?
No, I
Not really.
don't think so.
We're not changing anything.
No, you're not changing anything. I think you're giving some direction here on what we can do. And so, you know, I guess my next step is gonna be talking to, we'll talk to Stockwell and see if we can't verify that property line first. And then we'll try and measure from the side of the house to where that right of way is. And if we think that there's enough room there to park it with that setback, I think we're probably okay.
Awesome.
Sound good?
Yeah, oh, you tell you what, those were done a long time ago.
Yeah,
Because, I mean.
It will make it nice.
it will.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it'll just be so much easier to keep clean and, you know.
But you know, when I got next door, I'll have to check out that gas service. The lid for that is sitting right by the power pole, right? Yeah.
I don't know if you've been over there and seen that yet.
I saw it about a month, that was probably longer than that,
Mm.
last time I was over there,
Yeah.
but, not since the gas came off, no. So. All right, thank you.
We're gonna move on to the Railroad Avenue discussion. I brought this forward after watching the city council and Rob Huber's proposal that he wants to abandon that street, Railroad Avenue. And now this is my feeling. I don't think the city should ever abandon a road such as that where you could always use it for utilities. And you'd end up with 2 dead-end streets every time you try and plow snow or spray mosquitoes or anything of that nature. And the last time we talked with Rob Huber, he was gonna curb, gutter, sidewalk, and pave that street all the way up. He might have forgotten about that. And that was before your time, or either one. That's why I wanted to see if Joey Kidd was coming, because he was at that meeting. Rob, the way I feel, he just don't want to hold up his end of the deal.
Do you have that in writing somewhere?
No, but it's in our ordinance that the developer has to develop land. He should have first came to the council or to a planning zone with a drainage plan before he got building permits, but I don't think he did. But it's still in our ordinances that any development gets curb, gutter, and sidewalk.
Yes.
And it has been since he got the first building permit.
Has there been anything done in there?
He's built all the storage sheds.
Yeah, but
Yeah, so
other
it's-
than that,
The concrete's been placed. There is I suppose it's probably a 10-inch PVC pipe that runs from the north of the property under the concrete between two buildings. And that drains, what's north of there was, from what I understand, a typically wet area. So that generally drains that area into Railway Avenue. You can kind of see it on here, but there is a storm sewer inlet at,
Juniper, isn't it?
no, I think it's actually Cedar.
I don't think they're gonna see.
I think it's, so, if you see where those green letters are, north of the church parking lot,
Yeah.
on the northwest corner there,
Mhm.
there's, if I remember right, that's where the storm drain inlet is.
I think it's down a block, but I'm not gonna argue with you.
Yeah, I'm 99% sure there's one there. So I know we looked at it last spring when we had that flooding. That area was awfully wet, so we were trying to figure out, what we can do there. Now, obviously, it doesn't really do much. It's a closed system, and according to this, it looks like it's tied in. But that's where water is supposed to go right now.
But
It's not enough to handle
It
that
is,
area, that's for sure.
and last year, that wet year, there was a lake between the railroad tracks back there.
Yep.
And I think the railroad was gonna come back after the city to drain that, because it never blocked. Water never sat there till he built.
So what would happen if, I mean, the benefit of adding curb and gutter there, obviously would be able to direct storm water.
Stormed water somehow.
Now, ideally, we would direct that to the east, but we don't have a ton of storm sewer there either. So, to an extent, no matter what we do there, if we greenscape it, if we, let them greenscape it and put the sidewalk in, or if we require the curb and gutter and sidewalk, that water has to go somewhere.
Yes, it does.
And, if we're gonna be completely honest, we don't have a good place for it to go. Just given the lack of storm sewer in that neighborhood. Now, with the addition of, I'll have to go back and look at the plans, but with Central Basin 3 wrapping up, we should have storm sewer now up to First Avenue. So, obviously, we could direct it down that way. But to do so, you've got to have curb and gutter on the north side of Cedar and Juniper as well.
Mhm.
And right now, with their gravel streets, no improved surfaces, no curb and gutter, so. Now, I'll have to check on if they, I assume they did, I assume they tied in that 6-inch pipe, storm pipe, to the new storm sewer on Cedar, but I don't know without checking that, so.
So he never presented a drainage plan?
Never, that I know. That was way back. I mean, we're talking a long time ago.
And I would have to look at what the subdivision plan or subdivision regulations required at that point.
At that,
Our building permits have never required a drainage plan. Our subdivision regulations do. So when you're doing a larger subdivision, such as Nielsen is doing up north, there's a significant drainage plan that goes together. That has to be done to make it happen, so.
but I know I talked with Wayne Peterson, and he was representing Gene Cooper, and they are totally against closing off that end of the street where what they use.
Yep. So they own the Sturdivant's building here on Main Street. And that area to the west, that's open, they use that to kind of loop around their delivery vehicles for Sturdivant's. So they'll come in on Railroad or Railway, come around the building, and then leave on First Avenue.
I don't think that the city should abandon that street, my feeling.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the direction I was given at the council meeting was that he was to check with the property owners, the adjoining property owners.
Yeah.
That was his responsibility to do that, and then
Yes.
come back with some more information, so. We're certainly, I wouldn't say that the council's anywhere near making a decision on it at this point, but I think input from the planning commission is certainly helpful to making that decision.
But I'm not speaking for these people. It's a commission.
Yeah, like you said, I haven't been around very long, but in the 3 years I have been around, I watched enough city council meetings and these meetings and every other meeting to know that there was a lot of stuff that happened before, let's say, the last 5-10 years.
Yeah.
That probably shouldn't have happened. And to try and go back and fix all that stuff right now, I think you might run into some problems, because Rob's not the only one who's done stuff in this town that didn't get curb and gutter that should have, you know? So are you saying we need to go after everybody that's done stuff that
Well,
didn't do it right? Or just
Well,
Rob?
this was brought to the attention to the council because they wanted to abandon that
Yeah.
street.
Yeah.
And
And
I still think
I
we
see
should
both
follow
sides
our
of it.
ordinance.
I mean, there's no reason to have a road there because it doesn't go anywhere. The only thing it would serve is his buildings. I can see having a little thing around Sturtevant's, but as far as having that whole road there, you know, we've got 16 miles of road to do, or however, you know, why add 3 more blocks that
We're not adding it, it is a road right now,
Well, you're right, but it's gonna just stay gravel forever.
but it isn't hurting the city.
No, but it's not helping the drainage, you know, that you're saying it's helping.
No, I'm not saying it's helping the drainage, but I think he should be responsible for draining that better than
Yeah.
putting it on the neighbor's land.
If it remains, I just want to be clear, if it remains a city street, it won't always be gravel. I mean, I obviously don't have any plans in the next 5 or 10 years to make that an asphalt street, but it will have to happen at some point. And since it's a gravel street, it'll probably happen by special assessment. So it could happen sooner.
Yeah.
But you'd have to have them neighbors to want you to do it sooner.
Not necessarily.
They would just get stuck with it though.
Right.
But I do believe he should, you know, he's promised, and then he never does. So, in my thinking, if Nielsen says, I don't wanna put in sidewalks or curb and gutter, do they get out?
Yeah.
No, I know they shouldn't, but it would be the same thing. You know, and like you say, there has been things, there's been properties that were fixed without curb and gutter and sidewalk that should never have. And I don't know how they got through. I couldn't answer that question,
Yeah.
you know? But I'm just pretty much voicing my opinion. But I think what did he say, a 10-foot sidewalk?
10 foot.
That's all only gonna be a driveway for his help, for his storage sheds.
No, it would be in the plan that he had submitted would have greenscape on either side of it and then a straight path between main
People
and
would
out.
use 10 foot, you're gonna drive on. You know, the
What's the rec trails in that?
5 or 7.
It's
8 or
10.
10? It's 10.
Is it 10?
Yeah.
You know, he's saying that's gonna be such a good asset to the city, but when you go over a block, there's 2 sidewalks, one on each side of the road, does the same thing. In other words, his sidewalk would go to nowhere also. Because Sturtevant's, I think, would push that, you know. I'm not saying for sure.
I don't care either.
And we don't know what the other adjoining property owners will say at this point either, so.
I think there's a lot to consider on that, the whole thing. I mean, there's,
Yeah, there is.
you
But-
lose a road, you gain a greenway with a sidewalk in it. You get a road, you get that lineal foot of curb and gutter. And does that add to your
There's a buck a
lineal
foot.
foot?
There's your buck a foot.
Yep.
Well, right now it's on there anyway. Without it, it's not. That is true.
Charge by the square foot instead of linear foot.
I think that would, I really believe in that. To make
It's like
it, to make it,
cul-de-sacs, and it's just, yeah.
you take over by your neighbor that Chad, who used to live, Moyer lives, he got 37 square, foot of frontage. You take Bill State's property, I'll bet there isn't 60-foot frontage. You know,
There's a lot of variation.
there is, you know, and to make it fair, if you went by square foot, everybody pays the same.
I've got
Nobody can complain.
over 300 foot.
I've got
Right.
275, 325 feet. You know, it's not a fair deal.
Nothing's fair.
See, on that, I had a thought on that. If you went by the primary street, it's, you know, like the guys that have the corner lots, they're having to pay for both sides. What if you just charge them on the primary, the heavier traffic areas?
Or at least the address side.
Yeah, because, I mean, like, our lot is 42 feet wide.
Yeah, you're getting a deal.
Yeah,
You should find a way to park on the side of that.
but you see what I'm saying,
No,
if you want address
Yeah,
side
it's-
only, that's gonna save a lot of people a lot of money, because I know that our neighbors and I have had this conversation, and they're, granted, right now it's $1 a foot is what was passed, is that correct?
Correct.
But if you have 250 feet of curbside, you know, that's 250 where I've got 42.
You shouldn't be complaining.
I'm just saying, this is the conversations that we've had, and this is kind of the thought that I had, because, you know, I understand I'm one of them individuals that, you know, I can kind of look at things from both sides, and, you know, it's just the way I am, and I could see from them. For me, I'm like, you know what, 42 feet, sweet. For people to have 200-300 feet, that sucks. So that's why I'm saying, is like you said, if we could go from address portion of it, and I know that means less money for the city, but, you know, I mean, I don't know where the happy medium would be.
We seem to have strayed from the agenda.
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, I gotta set a date for what? Well, Willie, how did you feel about Rob and his?
How would you
Going
like
to
it?
Rob with his greenway and not having to put his curb and gutter and stuff in.
Well, I always kind of consider the source. He's not my favorite person. He's full of some stuff. I don't know. The thing is, though, he does do things in the city that other people are either unwilling or aren't able to do. You know, he does some development, and that's not all bad.
Yeah, I know.
But I think that he should be held to the same
Same standards as
standards
anybody else.
as anybody else that does it.
I kind of like the thought of the curb and gutter for the drainage. You know, because like you said, right now, Cedar Street is where the storm drain is for that.
Correct.
And you all know that Second and Cedar has been one of the drainage issue areas.
Not anymore.
Shouldn't be.
You know, we haven't had rain, so I
Yeah,
can't
right.
tell you. But you can kind of see where I'm headed with that.
Yeah.
Is if the only storm drain for that area is Cedar Street,
I think there's one.
I think in
There's
general.
one on Juniper.
is there?
There's a ditch from the church
And there's a
all the way
PVC pipe over there. Yeah.
Okay.
all the way to Juniper.
So, in general, if you're north of First Avenue at this point, that's now going to be the drainage problem area.
Yeah.
Anywhere north of First Avenue. Particularly when we get north of the railroad track, simply because we don't have
There is-
storms up there and we don't have a whole lot of curb and gutter, so there's nowhere to direct it. So, I mean,
And it's flat.
and it's very flat.
And so when is, in the big scheme of things, when are things gonna start being done up there?
Well, there's no approved plan at this point, but I would say my work over the past couple of weeks has been looking at the next 5 to 10 years. And, you know, I think more than likely we're going to start in the North Academy area. 'Cause that's generally a low spot in town. And then start working upstream from there, north on Elm, Boynton. We're hoping to do the Boynton widening and expansion in 2023. And then from there, we would just branch out and try and take care of that north area over the next 5 to 10 years.
How far are you going on Boynton?
The grant that we applied for is from 17 to Juniper. We would finish that intersection, which would tie into the new development as well.
See, when Stack was here, he tried to, he had, wanted to do Rummel Drive and then Elm from Boynton to his property line on Elm, and the neighbors just shot it down.
And I think if I remember right, when the city council was interviewing engineers earlier this year, when Stockwell was originally appointed, the emphasis was on North Elm and North the Railroad tracks to improve that drainage. And what brought them back to working on Central Basin instead was that you can improve the drainage and storm sewer all you want north of the tracks. You're still gonna bottleneck it when you get south of First Ave. And so, you know, in the end, you end up building from the bottom of the system up and building that straight out. And so now, you know, with that base trunk, I guess I would call it, done, it's time to figure out how do we branch from there. Now, a lot of this is gonna be driven by that sewer televising that they did this year.
Yeah.
We don't have those results compiled completely yet, so, you know, there may be areas that need more attention sooner than planned.
Yeah, very tough.
And it would be nice to have something done in that area, you know, because, you know, in the business that I'm at, it's kind of like the wrong side of the tracks kind of thing, and that's unfortunate, because there are some nice properties up there. It's just that it just looks so awful.
Yep, and it's, you know, we get 2,300 cars a day on average on Boynton.
I believe that's,
And, you know, most of them I would assume are coming down Main as well. This is that whole area north of the tracks is our front door.
yes, it is.
And
It
the
could
front
be
door can use a photo painting,
right.
right? So,
Yes.
I think there's a general idea or sense that this is probably the best area for us to focus on.
Because when you go to different parts of the city, that's the black eye, that area
Yes.
there. And like you said, when you're coming up Boynton to Maine, if you keep going, what do you see?
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
The substation doesn't help, but, you know, there's nothing
We
to
gotta
do
have it
about
too.
that.
Yeah.
But is the city planning on fixing, you said from the railroad track so far on both sides this year?
On Elm?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be on, I think it's on Monday city council agenda.
How are they gonna drain that?
It's not gonna drain any differently than it does now,
So you're still gonna go down the railroad track like this side of the tracks?
assuming that it goes down there, yes,
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
yeah. So,
But it might be a time to bring it across and down to them catch basins on Juniper. Yeah, at least you get it into a storm sewer.
right,
But
this is really,
it's bad.
I can't necessarily call it emergency repairs, but it's beyond the state of just putting a
Yes.
coat over top of it and calling it good,
Yeah.
so.
You can't make a racehorse out of a jackass.
Are you going to, when the new addition is, or when the addition gets going, is there going to be more than one way in there?
Yes, right
Okay,
now,
where's the other street?
Juniper and Countryside are the two entrances right now.
Okay.
There's a planned third entrance on the northeast side, but some space needs to be acquired first, so about 30 feet of sticks.
Oh, yeah.
So, that's up to the developer to figure that out. We would like to make that happen, obviously, but, that's in his hands to figure out how to get that access going.
Well, when that happens, that would be a good time to start working on Juniper going south in that whole area, wouldn't it?
So the area of Juniper and Boynton, if you're going north of Boynton on Juniper, that's all going to be included in that development.
Oh, okay.
So that street is going to be finished through,
Oh, good.
by them. Now south of there, yeah, that's something that's gonna have to happen on our end, so.
But that drainage, if you get the Boynton Avenue widening and fixing,
Adding storm sewer, yeah,
that'll all work in there.
yeah. There's significant drainage work that needs to happen along Boynton,
Yeah,
for a number of reasons. And that would be our best chance to make that happen, so.
So while we're over there.
I think we've strayed from the agenda again.
Yeah.
Yeah. That house that Drogs moved in there, did they put curb and gutter on the east side of it?
There's no curb and gutter on the east side, I don't think. I believe there's sidewalk.
Yeah, there was sidewalk on the
Yeah.
west one, but not
Yeah.
the east.
But until there's a street established there, a grade
So
established,
they didn't leave any money with the city to put in curb and gutter.
we can,
Huh?
I would
They
have,
didn't drop
I would
it
have
off.
to confirm that.
Okay. So we just move on and set a date for your,
Yeah, I received an appeal, late last week, regarding a property maintenance issue. This is actually for the, Park Drive manufactured home court. So, over the course of the last several days, we've been going through what the actual procedure looks like. I'm fairly certain we've never actually convened a board of property maintenance appeals. So I would like to provide the appellant and their representative notice, hopefully by letter tomorrow, of a hearing date. The best way to make this happen is just to go the full 20 days that we're allowed under the code, which would put it on October 8th, Thursday, October 8th. So I'm hoping we can get a quorum, which would be 3 members, to that meeting. That would also allow me to publish it next week in the newspaper. We're not obligated by the code to publish this public hearing, but I think given transparency and the history that we have with publishing public hearings, it would make sense to do so.
so you're thinking October 8th?
7 o'clock,
I have consistory meeting.
okay,
Here,
here.
I'll be here.
So you're definitely,
I'd be here, I think.
Yep.
Do we need 3 or 4?
you need 2/3, so you need 4. I can talk to Joe and Nikki and confirm. If they are, then we'll go with that. If not, I'll send a message around, as soon as I hear back from them to confirm that date. According to the ordinance, the zoning administrator, which is me, sits on that board, but as a non-voting ex officio member. Now, I think in this case, I probably should not sit on that board because I'm also the code official that made the decision that's being appealed. So, I think just to,
Do we get to hear what it is before we get to?
yeah, I'll get as much information on as early as I can. So that'll include, correspondence, it'll include the relevant chapters of our code. And I would encourage everybody just to ask any questions you have, because it can be a confusing process. But the first thing that we'll have to do when we have this public hearing is to adopt a procedure. And so I'll be laying that out with the city attorneys all in the next couple of days. Sounds like fun.
Do you think we ought to wait Till the 15th, you'll be here.
Unfortunately, I can't. The code says 20 days
Okay.
maximum, so. I'd like to do it sooner, but I think in the interest of making sure we have public notice out early enough, makes sense to do it out as far as we can, so. That's all I've got.
Who is it? I suppose we shouldn't ask. Camera's still on. We can, yeah, okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All right, all in favor, aye. So it's the 8th,